Thank you.
Oops. Okay, right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Planning Committee on Monday, the 1st of June at 10 a.m. Please note that the public session of the meeting will be recorded and published online for public access after the meeting. Does anyone object to this? No? Okay, that's fine. Can all attendees switch off their cameras and mute their microphones when not speaking? The camera and microphone should only be switched on when you're invited to speak. Guidance on how to do this is contained in the guidance issued to you. I will now ask the clerk to advise the members of participating today for all members to confirm their attendance once their name has been announced by the clerk so that it's clear in the recording of the meeting and can also be recorded by the clerk at the time. There are a number of items of quasi-judicial business for the committee consideration today. Members are reminded that if they leave the room or the meeting during consideration of any application, they will be unable to participate or vote on that item when they return. Please advise the clerk by the meeting chat that you're leaving the room and therefore unable to determine the item. If I could now turn over to Ms. McBain, please.
Thank you, convener. I'll just do a roll call to make sure everybody is in attendance. So, convener.
Here.
Councillor Jennifer Stewart.
I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor Allen.
Here.
Councillor Cook.
Here.
Councillor Copeland.
Here.
Councillor Cormie.
Here.
Councillor Gregg.
Here.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Here.
And Councillor Malik. Councillor Malik. Councillor Malik, can you indicate that you're here? You can use the chat, or if you just wave your hand.
Easy. He was there.
He was. I think he's just on mute.
Sorry, yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. So all 9 members are present, so we can continue.
Okay.
And if we just all switch our microphones and cameras off, except for Councillor Bolton.
Okay. Councillor Stewart, do you know how to switch your camera? That's it. Thank you. Perfect. Now I've got lots of round circles to look at. Okay, if we could just move on to the agenda proper. So can I just make sure that we all have the procedural note at 1.1? Okay. There's no determination of urgent business today. Do we have any declarations of interest?
Yep.
Okay, that's Councillor Cook.
Yes.
If you'd like to indicate.
Yeah, it's in respect of item 7.3. So in my capacity as a Director of Sport Aberdeen, I've met the owner of the quarry on a few occasions, but I don't think that's sufficiently significant for me to leave the room, so I'll be participating. And I know 1 or 2 of the 488 people who've put in representations, funnily enough.
Okay, I think probably we could all claim that. So thank you for letting us know. Thank you, Councillor Cook. Okay, moving on to the minutes of the previous meeting. Given there's a substantial number of pages at 4.1, I'll just ask, is there any questions on the minutes of the meeting of the 30th of April from pages 9 to 42? No, Councillor Cook, could I just ask you to take your hand down, unless you're asking a question right now? Thank you. Okay,
Sorry.
That's okay, no problem. We're all learning. So can I just take that there's no questions, that you're all happy to approve the minute? Okay, thank you very much. Committee planner is there at page 44 for you to note.
Could I ask a question?
Certainly, Councillor Gregg.
Thank you. Could I ask about the committee planner? On the previous committee planner, we had the city centre proposal that was due to come forward. The city centre conservation area appraisal. We've been waiting for that, and I wondered when that's coming.
Okay. Daniel, would you like to, Mr. Lewis, would you like to answer?
Yes, obviously workload's quite high with the team at the moment, so that has been put on hold temporarily. Work is continuing on it, and we're hoping, as you can see from the planner, to get that up to the November planning committee. We'll be in a position to take a properly considered document at that particular point in time.
Okay,
Thank you for that. Could I ask a second question?
Certainly.
Silverburn and Bedford Road weren't on the previous committee planners, and I wondered why these have appeared quite unexpectedly.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes, just to clarify that, obviously originally Silverburn and Inchgarth were...
It was Silverburn and Bedford Road.
Okay, so Silverburn House is quite a late item. We've decided that we were in a position to actually take a report up after the committee planner was finalised. So that's the reason why it's appeared on the agenda without actually being on the tracker. It's just a bit of an oversight in terms of what didn't actually make it onto the tracker. Obviously, the report is not for the final consideration of the application. It's purely to ask the committee whether the route that they would propose for the hearing and the determination of the application.
And Bedford Road, Mr. Lewis.
Bedford Road again. This is one that's was just in a position to take to committee. Obviously, we have a duty to determine applications as quickly as we possibly can. So that was put onto the agenda at the last possible moment, and therefore didn't actually make it onto the tracker. Apologies for that.
Thank you for that. Many thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gregg. Any other questions? No. Okay, so if we could now move on to the general business on the agenda. So at 6.1, we have the predetermination hearing procedure for Silverburn House, Claymore Drive, Aberdeen, 191904, and it's Mr. Leach, please.
Hi, good morning, convener. Thanks for that introduction. I will just share the PowerPoint slides and briefly run through them. This item is pages 45 to 70 in the committee papers. Okay, so item 6.1 relates to an application for planning permission in principle for a residential-led mixed-use development of around 100 to 150 houses and flats, and facilities consisting of approximately 1,000 to 3,000 square metres of Class 1 retail, Class 2 financial, professional and other services, and Class 3 food and drink with associated works. The application is before committee today to allow members to agree that the application should be the subject of a statutory predetermination hearing at a special meeting of the Planning Development Management Committee, and then consider whether the application is determined at a future Planning Committee meeting rather than full council. The application represents a significant departure from the current local development plan due to the site being zoned as part of a specialist employment area with a focus on Class 4 business use. In the proposed local development plan, however, the site and the land to the north is zoned as residential, and the site itself is allocated as Opportunity Site OP12 for 100 homes on former employment land. So just to run through the presentation slides, the site extends to around 4 hectares and lies between the A92 Ellen Road to the west, Aberdeen Energy Park to the east, and the Parkway and the former Exhibition Centre site to the south. Until recently, the site was occupied by Silverburn House office building. This has now been demolished and the site has been cleared. To the north, out with the site, are nursery and leisure facilities. You can see on the plan here. And beyond this are agricultural fields, which are zoned for development in the local development plan. So as this is an application for planning permission in principle, we just have an indicative site layout plan showing how the development could be laid out and the scale of the proposals. So looking at the plan here, to the west is a landscaped area around the Silverburn. A landscaped residential frontage is shown along Claymore Drive where access would be taken from, and in the centre of the development are flats, commercial facilities and a community green. So just turning to the current local development plan. In the current local development plan, the site and the surrounding area is zoned as B2 Specialist Employment Area. Then moving on to the proposed LDP, that was agreed by Council in March. You can see that the application site is allocated as OP12, suitable for 100 homes, and the land to the north is also zoned as residential. So just moving on to the application process. As is required with a development of this scale, public consultation has been undertaken by the applicants, and the proposal was also presented to the Council's pre-application forum in September 2019. So due to the zoning in the current local development plan, the residential proposals represent a significant departure. The difference in the scale of development up to 150 units over the 100 suggested in the proposed LDP allocation is also a consideration. This requires a predetermination hearing to be held prior to the application being determined. Previously, this type of application, as a significant departure, was required to be determined by full council. However, the changes brought in by the 2019 Planning Act and the scheme of governance review that was agreed by this committee in April, such an application can now be determined by the Planning Committee. Representations to the application are relatively low, but they do include an objection from the Bridge of Don Community Council, a local business, and the operators of the Bonaccord Centre. In terms of the application progress, in terms of comments from consultees, some additional information will be required from the applicants to allow the application to progress. So just to conclude, the report before committee today seeks agreement that a predetermination hearing will be arranged in accordance with the committee's instructions, subject to there being interest in attendance from those parties who have made representation to the application. Thereafter, the application will be referred to Planning Committee or full council for determination, depending on the view of the committee today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Leach. If I could ask if there's any questions on the procedure, not on the actual application, because that's not this report, it's to determine the procedure. Obviously, I think given we've just agreed that it would go through the usual PDMC process, I would be suggesting that we carry out a predetermined hearing that can be arranged by officers. Again, obviously making sure that we get the relevant people to attend and follow that procedures laid out and approved just recently. Can I get agreement? Anybody otherwise minded? No?
Agreed.
Sorry?
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay.
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay. Is that okay for you, Lindsay?
Yep, I can do a roll call if you want, or do you think?
Yeah, I know that everybody tried to shout, but possibly just for clarity, maybe you should do a roll call.
Do that for the recording. Okay. So just say agreed. I'll just do a quick roll call. So Councillor Bolton.
Agreed.
Councillor Stewart.
Agreed.
Councillor Allen.
Agreed.
Councillor Cook.
Agreed.
Councillor Copeland.
Agreed.
Councillor Cormie.
Agreed.
Councillor Gregg.
Agreed.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Agreed.
And Councillor Malik.
Agreed.
Okay, so we'll have a predetermination hearing, and it'll be the members of Plan and Development Management Committee rather than full council. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Lindsay. If we could move on to the recommendations, where one is of approval. Item 7.1 is detailed planning permission, erection of a primary school with early years facilities, associated 3G pitch, soft and hard landscaping, alterations to access and associated work, former Tillydrone infant school site, Cunningham Gardens, Aberdeen. That's planning reference 200206/DEP. And we have Ava, Ms. Murphy, handing over to you.
Thank you, convener. I'll just share my presentation.
Thank you.
Hopefully everyone can see that.
Yes, thank you.
This is pages 71 to 112 on your committee papers, just for reference. If it's okay with members, I'll bring up the location plan, but I'll run through the slides at the end of my presentation.
Yeah, that's fine, however you want to do it.
This application is before members as it is a major development which seeks permission for the erection of a new primary school which also incorporates an early years provision and a multi-use games area in an area of Tillydrone. The site is also allocated within the current local development plan as OP94 and OP90. The school building will be located on the northeast corner of the site with a footprint comprising 3 wings. The north elevation will provide the main access to the school for parents and staff, while pupils will take access from the various entrances on the site southern elevation. The existing car park along Conningham Gardens will be utilised, providing vehicular access to the site. A number of pedestrian access points will also be available along all boundaries. No representations have been received and no consultee has objected to the development. With regards to the principle of the development, while the site is allocated, it also falls within a residential area. As such, the proposal has been assessed against policy H1 and policy CF2. In terms of the aforementioned allocations, the site stretches across OP94 and OP90. Both allocations within the current local development plan fall within the strategic infrastructure plan for the affordable housing programme. However, within the proposed local development plan, while both sites are still allocated, OP94 is now allocated for a new primary school and OP90 is now allocated for educational purposes and/or affordable housing. The content of the proposed plan is now the settled view of the council and is therefore a material consideration in determining this planning application. Therefore, significant weight can now be given to the proposed allocations, and it is considered that the proposals comply with these allocations. In relation to policies H1 and CF2, it is considered overall that the development would not result in any undue impact on the surrounding area or residential properties, and would also be located in a convenient position for the local community and would be very accessible. As such, the principle of development can be established and is therefore supported by the planning service. The proposed design is considered acceptable and appropriate. With regards to amenity, the proposal has been assessed with respect to noise, and based on the information submitted, the development would be acceptable. It is noted that some further assessments of plant is required when it has been finalised. However, it is considered that conditions can be used to secure this information for assessment by environmental health. Overall, it is considered that this aspect of the proposal is acceptable. Other aspects such as parking, access, sustainable and active travel, drainage, waste and impact on trees has been considered, and all elements are found to be acceptable. Therefore, it is considered that the development is acceptable and in compliance with the relevant policies of the current local development plan and those within the proposed local development plan. It is therefore recommended that the application be approved for the reasons outlined in the report and the conditions attached. So I'll just run through the site. So as you can see, this is the site within the wider Tillydrone area. This is the red line boundary. This is the existing site plan. So this is the existing police station, Harris Drive along the southern boundary. There's some residential properties to the west and more residential properties to the north. So these are the opportunity sites I alluded to in my presentation. This is OP94 and this is OP90. So as you can see, the site stops about here of OP90 and incorporates the whole of OP94. So this is the proposed site plan. Obviously, this is the school here, comprising the 3 wings, the car park and vehicular access of Conningham Gardens, the hard standing area and grassed area for the open space, and then the multi-use games area is here to the east of the site. These are the elevations. This is the north elevation, incorporating the main access from Conningham Gardens, and the southern elevations, which will have the most entrances for school pupils. These are the east and west elevations. These are just the proposed visualizations. Some of these have been amended since the application was submitted. I just put it in just so you could see what it would look like. The floor plans. Just the roof plan there. and some sections. This is the landscaping scheme. A condition has been attached just to make sure this is finalised and we have everything incorporated that we need to. And some of the landscaping within the site. And also some photos of the site. So this is view looking southeast towards Harris Drive, along the western boundary, again towards Harris Drive. And this is the police station and the residential properties on Conningham Gardens. And this is the car park, the existing car park, where proposed car park will be utilised and will be extended. And this is looking from towards the western boundary from approximately where the police station is. So if members have any questions, I'll just bring back up the site plan.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Murphy. That was really helpful, and thank you for your report, which was quite lengthy and detailed. Questions for Ms. Murphy? If you should put your hand up if you want a question. I'm not seeing.
Yes, I've got. Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Gregg.
Yes, thanks. I've got two questions. The first one is on page 97, mentions external dining area, an external learning space. The idea of the external dining area sounds very interesting. I wondered if you could get a little bit more clarity on what that is. External dining area.
Yes, so on the site here, it's not as detailed on the site plan, but if you can see my mouse along the western boundary, this is where the external dining area facility will be. So as far as I'm aware, this will be asked for in more detail in the landscaping plan, but it's just a space for pupils to eat outside. Mm-hmm. And then to the south here, it will be the external classroom, and if I run through the slides just quickly, there is a section that shows it in more detail. So this is the landscaping plan. So if you can see here along, this is it. So it's tiered and stepped. And then a section, this will be here. If you can see my mouse just on the lower plan, this will be here. It's covered and just a space for external learning.
Okay. I think that's a really positive element of this planning application, because our council policy is seeking to improve and develop opportunities for outdoor learning spaces. Thank you for that. And my second question was on page 102, which mentions that the school building could be adaptable as a community building. What does that mean? Does that mean does parts of the building could be used or what? It's just not very clear, the wording there. So any comments on that would be helpful. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Gregg. It's for policy D1, it just requires that all new developments are adaptable and flexible. So it was just to say, whilst there is no proposal for it to be for a community use at the moment, just if for any reason down the line, if it was required to be used, then there is provision within the school for it to be used for any purposes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Many thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Gregg. Anybody else got any questions for Ms. Murphy? Not seeing anything on the chat, and I'm not seeing any hands going up. So I'll take there's no further questions. The recommendation is of approve conditionally with upfront payment of contributions and inter-service agreements. We also have a number of conditions laid out on pages 13 to 17 and an advisory note on page 17 to 18. With that in mind, I think looking at the application and all the additional extra environmental improvements, I think the outdoor classroom, which already has been mentioned by Councillor Gregg, will actually add to a wider type of learning at the school. Are we happy to approve the application? I'll get Ms. McBain to do a roll call, is probably safest.
Yeah, thank you, convener. So if you can just for the record and say if you approve the application. So convener,
Approve.
vice convener,
Approve.
Councillor Allen,
Approve.
Councillor Cook,
Approve.
Councillor Copeland,
Approve.
Councillor Cormie,
Approve.
Councillor Gregg,
Approved.
Councillor Mackenzie,
Approved.
and Councillor Malik.
Approved.
Thank you. So the application is approved in line with the recommendation in the report.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. McBain, and thank you, Ms. Murphy, for your report. We'll move on to item 7.2, which is detailed planning permission for the erection of 6 residential flats with associated landscaping at 44 to 46 Bedford Road, reference 200303. Now, you'll be forgiven feeling a bit of deja vu here. It has been to us several times, but there has been just a slight amendment to the application, but because there was a roads comment previously on the application, it has to come back to us. So I'll maybe just hand over to Mr. Forbes and he can maybe talk us through the change.
Thank you, convener. Yeah, hopefully everyone can hear me here.
Yes,
hopefully no technical hitches. Thanks. Yeah, just in case there is any hitches, just a reminder that the presentation that I'll take you through, that's available on pages 113 to 124 of the committee papers. So what I'll do is I'll just take you a quick synopsis through the application and then take you through the presentation. Thank you. I'll just have the, hopefully you're getting my presentation here. I'm not sure if that's coming up on the screen. You should have the location plan.
No, we don't have it yet, Mr.
You don't have it yet. Okay, I'll just check. Right. Hopefully that's coming up. It might take a minute just to load.
Yeah. You're all right. We're ready.
There? Great. Thank you. Yeah, well, this is, as you said, this is an application for detailed planning permission. There's quite a bit of history here. The previous application, in fact, was at committee earlier this year. It's a very similar proposal for 6 flats. On the site itself is it's a rear garden of an existing tenement property which fronts onto Bedford Road, but it's a corner site. So the site itself runs along. As you see from the site plan here, the site bounds onto Bedford Place as well. So that's where it's proposed to actually build. It's basically a 6 flatted development tenement form. The history here is that, as I said, there was a previous application for a very similar scale and form of building, which was approved at committee most recently back in January. The reason this is at committee is there's objection from the road service in terms of potential increased parking pressure in the surrounding area. The site itself just lies at the southern edge of Old Aberdeen controlled parking zone, which I think Bedford Place is actually the boundary of the parking zone. The proposal, as I've said, is 6 flats. They all front onto Bedford Place. There's no parking proposed, but it's essentially the same proposal as was previously approved. There's no increase in numbers of flats. There's no increase in the height of the building. The only change really is an increase to the footprint. It's a 1.5 metre extension in terms of the length of the building, so that it will be closer to the rear wall of the existing tenement, which lies along Bedford Road. So again, no increase in height or form of the building other than the footprint's changing slightly. So that's the reason for the new application. There's no objections from members of the public. The issues are essentially the same as were previously considered in terms of planning policy within the local development plan. The proposal doesn't raise any strategic issues. The scale of it is such that there's no cross-boundary issues as well. So really what we're looking at is the assessment against the local development plan and other material considerations such as supplementary guidance. So as I've said, there's no real fundamental problems in terms of the change from the previously consented scheme. The recommendation is approval subject to a number of conditions relating to the detail of the proposal, and there's also a recommendation that a similar contribution is required in relation to the City Car Club as was previously required in terms of the January presentation. So I'll just take you through the slides here. What we have in terms of the site itself, as I've said, it's got quite a long, elongated site. The blue area at the front of the site is the tenement, the existing parent tenement. The red outline is the existing site, which, as I say, would face onto the building, would face onto Bedford Place, so running perpendicular to Bedford Road. The site currently is garden ground at the rear of the tenement, which is communal garden ground. It's rather unused currently. As you see, these are street views looking west towards Bedford Road, looking down Bedford Place. So the site is just on the left here, just beside that street tree. In fact, it would be partly hidden by the street tree. And this is the site looking due south, essentially. So that gap site currently is where, well, it's the existing garden ground, and the building would sit in adjacent to the tenement on Bedford Place. So similar form. So you see the footprint there. It's sitting at the rear east end of the site, and the access is onto Bedford Place itself. This is the detail in terms of the ground floor plan. So what we have here, the dashed red line here represents the previously consented scheme, the edge of it, and what we're talking about essentially is an increase in the footprint of 1.5 metres. So obviously there's an increase in site coverage, a marginal increase in site coverage, but we still have communal garden ground which would be shared between the proposed occupants of the flats and the existing residents on Bedford Road. The elevations itself is again very, very similar to what's consented. The red, all we've talked about really is an elongation of the elevation by 1.5 metres, but still a very similar form and materials to the adjacent tenement. So you've got a granite frontage, which obviously would accord with our policy on granite use within the local development plan. And the rear elevation essentially is the same as what was previously consented. Minimal, slight change to the window proportions, but the windows are pretty much in the same position. And this elevation is not really seen from any public place, so there's obviously not the same degree of concern about the visual impact in terms of the street scene. This is the previously consented scheme, so the footprint, just to give you a comparison, that's what was consented, and that's the elevation as consented. So again, not really much in the way of change. Happy to take any questions if there's any. Thank you very much, Kavina.
Thank you very much, Mr. Forbes. Any questions for Mr. Forbes? Again, I'm not seeing any hands, and there's nothing in the chat. So we obviously have gone through this application quite thoroughly. I've seen it several times myself at different meetings. So with the recommendation, which is willingness to approve conditionally subject to securing a legal agreement to deliver developers' obligations towards the car club. There is.
Kavina, can I ask a question?
Certainly, Councillor Copeland.
Yeah, thank you. I'm looking at page 127 of this application. And it says ACC developer obligations. It says we want it, then it says we don't want it. And education and housing are both saying they want something. Could that be clarified? Are we asking for anything via developer obligation?
Mr. Forbes?
Thank you, convener. Yes, if I can just clarify that point. Yes, obviously there was consultation with developer obligations team as there was previously, but whilst they've indicated that they would normally be expecting provision of contributions for a range of provisions in terms of education, open space, obviously affordable housing. The situation here is obviously that the previous consent didn't have those burdens imposed on it. So because we obviously have to consider the fact that there's a history here, which is of significance. And I think the comments from the developer obligations team do appreciate that background context is of significance in terms of being a material consideration. So it's an unusual situation, but yes, you're right, we would normally be expecting these contributions, but because of the history here, we can't really reasonably require them. Essentially, that's the position.
Councillor Copeland?
Can I just clarify? So the part of ACC education doesn't apply and the ACC housing doesn't apply. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, sorry, yes, if I can just clarify again, yes, they are the consultation responses have said that there would be normally there's an expectation that those impacts are mitigated through contribution. I think it's £2,635 contribution was sought for education, but because of the history here, we're not looking for those contributions to be required because we didn't require them previously. So that is the position. Obviously, any contributions that we do legitimately require, we do have to take into account of what is the history on any particular given site, and the particular circumstances in this case are such that it wouldn't be reasonable, essentially, to now impose those burdens. Thank you.
Yeah,
Sorry,
could I just go back? So does that apply to the 57,000 for housing as well? Just we're not taking any developer contributions. Right.
Again, if I can just clarify, yes, exactly the same position with that. Yes, because there wasn't a contribution for or affordable housing, we can't now request it, or we can't insist on it, essentially.
Okay, there is obviously, if you notice in the recommendations, there had been previously an agreement to get an obligation, a developer's obligation towards the car club. As I say, I don't know whether the contributions had been late being asked for in the previous applications, Councillor Copeland, but as Mr. Forbes said, it wouldn't be deemed as reasonable to then add on to an application that previously is essentially still the same as it was. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, Convener, that was my thinking as well. That's why I was wondering why it was in there.
Yeah, and well, unfortunately, thankfully, we don't write the reports, Mr. Councillor Copeland, and I think Mr. Forbes was perhaps just trying to be transparent, I would have imagined. Is there any further questions? No. Okay, so the recommendation, as I said, is willingness to approve conditionally subject to securing a legal agreement to deliver developers' contributions towards the car club. And there is a number of conditions set out on pages 9 to 10. With that, can we agree? And I'll ask Ms. McBain to do the roll call.
Thank you, Convener. So we'll just do a roll call again. So if you can just indicate if you're in approval for the application as per the recommendation in the report. So Convener?
Approve.
Vice Convener?
Approve.
Councillor Allen?
Approve.
Councillor Cook?
Approve.
Councillor Copeland?
Approve.
Councillor Cormie? Councillor Cormie, I think I muted you, so you need to unmute. I'll come back to Councillor Cormie.
No, sorry.
Yeah.
Approve.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gregg?
Approved.
Councillor Mackenzie?
Approved.
And Councillor Malik?
Approved.
So we're all members are in agreement, so the application is approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, now we're moving on to the last item on the agenda, which is 7.3, which is the detailed planning permission for residential development of 245 private sector flats up to 9 stories and 2 basement levels with amenity space, 254 car parking spaces, 2 publicly accessible car club vehicles, residence gym, a residence function room, public bistro, public promenade, viewpoints to the quarry at Rubislaw Quarry. It's planning reference Q00042, pages 135 to 200. And I'll pass over to Mr. Easton, please.
Sorry, Convener, Councillor Cook has just raised his hand. I think it's just for his declaration of interest.
That's exactly it.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Cook. Right, Mr. Easton, over to you. Is Matthew there? Daniel, Mr. Lewis, is Matthew with us?
Sorry.
Sorry, we didn't have.
Sorry.
Right, I'll just get the presentation up.
You're panicking me there, Mr. Easton. I thought I was going to do it for you.
I was panicking. It's just loading.
Okay, no problem.
You see anything yet?
Not yet. Okay, we've got a circle now in the middle. Yeah, thinking about it.
Whilst that.
That's it. There you are.
Okay. I can't. Can you see the presentation now?
Yes, we can. Yes.
I can't.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, we have the slides.
Yes. Right. I see it now. Right. I'll just run through a quick summary of it, and I'll leave the presentation on the location plan. Actually, that's going very slow for me. I might try it another way.
Okay. No problem.
Sorry.
No, I know that there's been a few technical hitches in other meetings today, so.
Yeah, that's not working.
It has offered me to take control, but I suggest you want that.
I'll stop presenting that. I'll load it up again.
Okay.
Right. Okay, can you see that now?
Yep,
yes,
that's fine.
Okay, good. Right, so this is an application for detailed planning permission for a mixed-use residential-led development at the Hill of Rubislaw. The main elements of the development are 245 flats, which are a mix of studios, 1, 2 and 3 bedroom units. There'll be a residence gym and the function room, as well as a public accessible food and drink unit on the ground floor, which will be open to the public. Alongside this will be a walkway adjacent to the building and along the edge of the quarry, providing public access to the quarry edge and allowing views out across the water. There'll be 2 levels of basement parking with 232 car parking spaces for the flats, which will be accessed via a ramp, and there would also be 20 spaces at ground floor level for the food and drink use, as well as 2 car club spaces. Development would take the form of one building modelled into 2 peaks with a valley between, wrapping around the north side of the quarry. The building would be between 2 and 9 stories in height. We should also point out that there's a slight error in the report with regards to the height of the building. The correct height is 28.4 metres rather than the 26.4, which is indicated within the report. So apologies for that. The principle of developing the site is long established and dates back to the late 1990s when a large-scale office building was approved. There have been many applications since then for various office and residential schemes, and one of these proposals, dating from 2006, is still capable of being implemented. This proposal is a reduced scale version of proposal previously refused by committee in June 2018. That decision was subsequently appealed to the Scottish Ministers, with the reporter upholding the committee's decision, although the reasons for refusal were not entirely consistent with the committee's decision. The reporter found that the overall length of the proposed building would dilute its vertical emphasis, and that it was considered it would dominate and overshadow the adjacent office buildings and would have an adverse impact on the visual amenity of nearby residential properties, predominantly on Royfold Crescent. The other reasons for refusal, the reporter found that the proposed parking provision would be acceptable, and the council's normal way of offsetting impact on schools by collecting developer obligations would be acceptable. In comparison to the previous application, the development now proposes their number of units reduced from 299 down to 245, and a reduction of the building length of around 35 metres at its eastern end. There's also a reduction in height from 32.8 metres down to 28.4, and the massing of the buildings broken up into 2 peaks rather than 3. There's a total of 470 objections and 18 letters of support. These raise a wide range of matters which have been addressed throughout the report. In assessing the application, officers considered the changes in reducing the size of the building between the previous application and what is now proposed, found that it would satisfactorily address the issues previously raised in terms of the height and scale of the building and impact on its surroundings. With all other matters considered acceptable, the recommendation is therefore one of approval, subject to conditions and a legal agreement. So I'll now just take you through the presentation. So as you can see, we've got the site plan there with the application site around the north side of the quarry with the office buildings beyond. We've got an aerial view there. Again, you can see the office buildings on the left-hand side of the image, with the application site just wrapping around the north edge of the quarry. And another aerial view there. As you can see, the site is kind of cleared. There's less vegetation on the site than the rest of the quarry edge. Some photos of the business park as we've got at the moment. We've got Rubeslaw House there in the north on the top image. On the bottom picture we've got Chevron House, with the application site being the area with the hedging on the right hand side. These are photos of the site itself. Again, looking on the top image, looking south towards Queen's Avenue on the Queen's Road side of the quarry. Then on the bottom image we've got the site with the hedge, which creates the boundary with the business park. This is the proposed site plan. So working from the left hand side, we've got the entrance to the car park to the basement levels below. Then at surface ground floor level, we've got the 20 space car park for the bistro. The bistro itself is in the centre here, with communal space for residents and access to the upper floors. And as we move around, we've got flats at ground floor level on the eastern side of the development. That's a typical car park layout below in the basement, pretty much just parking. There's also waste storage facilities at those levels. Then moving up the building to the second floor, we have flats within 2 wings at the moment, the double height area in the middle. Then as we move up to the third floor, it's the first floor that's connected as one. As we've got the fourth and fifth, the building gets narrower. Sixth and seventh floors, again, it gets narrower as we go up. Then the eighth floor is the final floor with the roof plan there. The proposed cross section helps to show just how the building sits. 2 basement levels, then as we work up, it obviously gets narrower towards the top. It's a typical design detail there, showing floor to ceiling windows and roof terraces, which many of the flats would feature. And then the first visualization is looking from the business park towards the quarry and the site. Here you can see the opening through to the walkway, and then the bistro area just adjacent. It's looking from the quarry. I mean, this is a view you probably wouldn't ever actually be able to obtain, but it does help to show just how the building is set and how it would gently lower down towards Royfold House and Royfold Crescent, which would be on the right hand side of the image. Again, another view which you wouldn't actually get, but again that shows how it would sit in comparison to the existing buildings at the business park. Royfold House being on the right hand side with Royfold Crescent beyond, and Rubeslaw House and Chevron House on the left hand side. This is a comparison between the 2018 application, which members will recognise from last time. It helps to show the reduction in scale and size of the building. And this is then the 2006 consented scheme, which could still be implemented at the moment. As you can see, although it's taller at one end, it does generally, it's smaller in height across the main part of it. A further comparison between the previously refused application and the current application, the bottom shows the length of the building has been cut, so that's around 35 metres, and that was to assist in reducing the impact on Royfold House and Royfold Crescent beyond. You can also see the reduction in height from 32.8 metres down to 28.4. What visualisations from the surrounding area? So these images, it's important to note the top image is as it is now. The middle image shows the building superimposed over the top of the image, and then the final image is how it would actually look in reality. So in this image, this is from Cromwell Road in the West End, and you can see the building would sit behind the Keppelston developments quite comfortably on the skyline. This is from the north, coming down Anderson Drive. So in this instance, the building would actually be sitting behind the existing houses and trees. So until you're much closer to the site where you'd catch glimpses through the trees in between buildings, you wouldn't actually see it coming down Anderson Drive at this point. Coming closer to the site, this is at Anderson Drive at the junction at the end of Rubeslaw Den South. So again, the middle image shows that a lot of the building would actually be sitting behind existing buildings, and then though it's not quite clear, you can see that the building would sit between the trees, and the wee glimpses just poking up above the existing building there. So again, we felt that sat quite comfortably in the streetscape. Going to the opposite side of the quarry at Queen's Road, this is Rubeslaw Park Road. Again, the building sits behind trees, which do provide some screening to it. Obviously, in the summertime, that would be at a higher level than it would be in the winter. Moving around to Angusfield Avenue, this is to the rear of the homes there, Angusfield Lane. Again, the building will be hidden behind trees and sit alongside existing office buildings in the business park. And this is perhaps where the view will be have the biggest impact, is at Queen's Avenue, on the south side of the quarry, where the building will be in the full view of the homes there. Moving around to Royfold Crescent, although it generally wouldn't be seen from Royfold Crescent itself, there are gaps through which you could catch glimpses. And here, because of the reduction in the size of the building and the length of it, the building would only be seen in the distance there beyond the roof of Royfold House. It's quite difficult to see because of the trees. And then beyond Royfold Lane, between Royfold House and Royfold Crescent, is Royfold Lane rather. Here, because of the topography and the proximity of Royfold House, the building would sit behind there with no views possible from the lane itself at this point, and then further up. Although that's not to say from the upper stories of the houses there, you may be able to catch glimpses of it. So that's the presentation. I'm happy to take any questions or look at any of the images in more detail, should anyone want.
Okay, I have a number of questions, so I will take Councillor Cook. I saw you first.
Thank you, convener. Yeah, just a couple of questions. First one relates to blasting. I've seen suggestions that in order to construct the development, some blasting would need to take place, and folk have expressed concern about that in terms of the effect on nearby properties. I couldn't see anything in the conditions or the advisory notes to the applicant. Could you give us some comments or comfort on that?
Thank you. Yes, certainly. I mean, there's been no indication from the applicant that it would require to undertake any blasting of any sort to construct the project. As far as we know, the site itself, it's made ground, so there's been earth, soil deposited there on top of the bedrock, presumably once the quarry ceased working. So I think the idea would be to remove that to create the space for the basement car park levels. There's no indication, like I say, that blasting would be required, but what we could do, if members were moving for approval, is to attach a condition that required a management plan for that. But as I say, we're not expecting that would be required in terms of blasting actually occurring.
Thanks. That's helpful. I think to provide reassurance to nearby residents. And then I've got a completely different issue. Quite a few of the people who've made representations have expressed concern about the impact on traffic. Now, I know our roads team doesn't have concern about that. Am I right in thinking that we have to have regard to what the reporter said on the appeal on the previous one? Because she said on traffic, she thought the 2018 application would have it would be acceptable in terms of the traffic impact. So therefore, even if we wanted to disagree with our own roads team, we couldn't turn it down on the basis of traffic impact because of what the reporter said. Is that understanding correct?
Thereabouts. I mean, you certainly. I mean, the reporter's decision is a material consideration, which members need to consider. However, you can disagree with the reporter's findings. In terms of the traffic report, it was found both by roads officers and the reporter and officers in the 2018 application to be acceptable. So in terms of looking at this application, it's obviously a smaller development, so therefore the impact should be less. And we've also had the opening of the AWPR, which obviously reduced traffic on Anderson Drive. So yes, logically, because it's a smaller development, the impact should be no more. In fact, it should be less. But certainly, if members were to disagree with that assessment, then you're free to do that. But you do have to take into account the decisions that have went before us.
I think that's me done for now.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Cook. Just so that everybody knows that I have their names, I've got Councillor Stewart, Councillor Allen, Councillor Malik and Councillor Cormie still to speak. So Councillor Stewart, could I bring you in? Councillor Jennifer Stewart.
Okay, thank you, convener. Several of us have been sent emails from Mr. Black when he talks about flooding, and that would be one of my areas of the question. He says that there is inaccurate information that we've been given, and I just wondered, you know, is the report pertaining to flooding all robust? Maybe we could just have, maybe you could, Matthew, if you could just maybe talk it through a little bit more, if that's okay, convener. You know, if there's we've all been sent it, so someone's going to raise this, and it's just to make sure we're doing the right thing.
Yeah. I mean, I know we've got 3 conditions, but again, Matthew, Mr. Easton, sorry, if you could maybe just give us a little bit more detail around the flooding,
yeah,
and water runoff.
So yeah, at the moment, the surface water from the site goes into the quarry entirely, is our understanding. And the proposal is that 50% of that would now be diverted to the public sewer. So that's a betterment in terms of what's going into the quarry. What the conditions require is a management plan, so that will take some coordination between different parties. I'll say Mr. Black being one of them as owner of the quarry. It would also involve SEPA, our flooding team, as well, and Scottish Water as owner of the sewer, the public sewer. So that's what conditions are there for to coordinate that, really. What we do know, sorry, I'm just trying to catch up the report. Yeah, in terms of flooding, I mean, SEPA have not objected on flooding. What they have said is that I mean, the water level needs to be managed, but I mean, the development should not change that, really. Like I say, it's putting less water into the quarry. So whilst, I mean, that's the situation at the moment. So the conditions are there to really get the detail of that and make sure everyone works together. And it's probably about as much as we can say at this stage on that.
Thank you, convener. Can I come back?
Yes, certainly.
Okay, thank you. So I suppose this area has been under question for a long time, and I would say even for as long as I've been elected. And I remember going up there with officers of the council, not planning, but I think the chaps now left the council, and when they were measuring the water levels there, and they did seem to be very high. I mean, do we feel the information that we have that there's not going to be a negative impact and that the water levels would actually continue to rise? I mean, I know that I had photographs showing just how high the water came up in the quarry. And I say the council measured it over a period of time. It was something that I remember raising and having documented at Queen's Cross and Harlow Community Council. It's just this thing that's kind of nagging at the back of my mind, and I would want to be completely reassured that the water level wouldn't rise as a consequence of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, certainly as a consequence of this, we're not expecting it to rise any more than it would do. The water level is managed, or has been managed in the past anyway. The council have been involved in that, like you've mentioned. So the expectation would be that it would continue and take account of any changes this development brings along. But at this stage, we're not expecting it to radically alter how the water rises or lowers in the quarry.
Okay. Thanks very much for that I'll leave it like that at the moment, convener, if that's okay. Maybe come back later.
Thank you. Councillor Allen.
Yes, thank you, convener. Read the report as I may, I cannot find any indication of social housing, affordable housing here. And I do read that they're going to keep control and it's going to be rented property. But could I have a comment on the lack of affordable housing within this scheme?
Thank you. Yes, so the application has been considered by the Development Obligations Officer, and on this occasion, similar to the last proposal as well, is that it would be a financial contribution towards affordable housing. So at £55,000 per unit, that's a sum of £3.368 million. So the reason why it's been decided to take a contribution on this occasion is that typically social landlords do not want complicated buildings that aren't built in a standard way, which this is obviously quite a unique site. The building is not a standard building. So the feeling was that we know ourselves interested in actually taking on a part of this building. The way the building's built as well is that, or it would be built, is that it's one building. It's very difficult to divide it into blocks. Normally, an RSL would take a block within a development. It's easy for them to manage. That's what they like. So here it was considered that the financial sum would be the best route, and that can be obviously put towards other projects in the area, or throughout the city rather, affordable housing projects.
If I can just come back, how many houses can you build for 3 million?
It's not something I could answer off the top of my head. I guess that depends.
I don't think you could, a quarter of over 200 houses can be built for 3 million.
Well, I mean, the rate, the £55,000 per unit, that's the highest rate in the area. It's in the prime area. In our guidance, that's the council's adopted guidance for dealing with affordable housing in these situations.
Okay, I'll just have to leave it there, but it's not very satisfactory. Thank you, convener.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Allen. Councillor Cormie.
Thank you. Thank you, convener. I've got 4 questions. I'll just fire them all off. That's okay. The first one, Councillor Cook went on about blasting regarding the bedrock. I'm more concerned about the vibration. Has there been a noise assessment done on the vibration going into this bedrock to the local houses round about? My second question, I'll just fire them all off at once. The second question, the views that you've shown us, Mr. Easton, have we any views from the den itself from north and south, how it's going to affect Ruberslow Den north and south? My third question, given the size of this footprint of the site, the amenity space round about public realm, for instance, seems to be very, very small, and do you think that is sufficient? And my fourth question is, what is the current demand for rented accommodation in Aberdeen long term just now? And would this properties that going up for rent for long term or short term? Yeah.
Okay. On vibrations, there's no noise assessment being done, but there's a condition requested by Environmental Health for a noise assessment to be done, but that was on mechanical plant which the building would have, so not specifically on any vibrations. What we could do again is have a management plan to deal with any vibrations from construction. That would normally be through Environmental Health, we would deal with that. But certainly if there's to be any drilling or such like that, could be controlled through that. On views, if I can, the only views we have is the one I've shown at the Anderson Drive end of Ruberslow Den South. We wouldn't have been anticipating that to be any views from within Rubeslaw Down and Rubeslaw Down South. If I can get to. So it's this view here. So by the time you're going up the street in Rubeslaw Down South, I mean, it's quite an enclosed street with trees and obviously buildings. We wouldn't anticipate you'd be able to see it from there. On the open space, if I can bring up the layout plan. So it's obviously quite a narrow site. There's not a lot of space, but what we do have at the eastern end, which we didn't have last time, as the building's been shortened at this end, that is an area of public open space there, which would have views out over the quarry. We also feel that although there's not a lot of open space, the opportunity that the site brings to have the walkway around the quarry, provide public access to views out of the quarry which don't exist at the moment. We feel that's a positive of the development. So that compensates for the lack of any open space as we'd normally expect it. But there are areas of landscaping you can see around the building, around the walkway. So we're happy enough with the open space. There's also a contribution towards open space. If I can just find the number. Yeah, so towards open space, £28,914 towards enhancing open space at Hazelhead Park, and that's in accordance with our adopted guidance. And in terms of rental and any demand, I mean, planning systems there to really enable development to happen. It would really be up to the developer themselves to decide whether they believe there's demand there for their product, for their flats. It's not really for us to second guess what the market might do. In terms of the tenure of the flats, that as far as we know, it's long-term lets. It would be a managed scheme like the one at Stonywood. There's one, and also I believe at Triple Kirks would be a similar setup where you rent from the developer. It's a managed building with concierge, that type of thing. As I said in my intro, there's the studio is 1, 2, and 3 bedroom flats. There's a range of sizes for a range of different people to occupy.
Okay, Councillor Cormie.
Yeah, we don't have an officer to answer that last question, do we? Is there a current demand for that type of rental property in Aberdeen?
I think Mr. Easton has obviously indicated that it's not necessarily something, but I'll maybe bring in Mr. Lewis. If you could just give clarity over whether the planning system or Mrs. Beattie, whoever, Councillor Cormie's question.
Yeah, so what I want to point out is that obviously this scheme will only be built if there's a demand for the flats within it. So in some ways that's self-regulating. But, you know, whether there's a demand for a particular type of residential property is not necessarily a material planning consideration. At the end of the day, the market will decide whether this scheme is built or not, and it will only be built if there is demand for the flats.
Is that helpful, Councillor Cormie?
Yep, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, have you any more questions?
No, that's me finished, thank you.
Okay, if you can just pop off your mic, and I'll take Councillor Malik. I've also got Councillor Gregg and Councillor Copeland who will be next. So Councillor Malik.
Thanks very much, Can I just follow Councillor Allen? 55,000 per unit. Mr. Easton, you think it is enough because Aberdeen City Council is selling affordable houses in Cove for 112,000. Yet Aberdeen City is only getting 55 per unit. For this development, this does not make sense to me, not only in the price, but no disrespect to the co-flats in this area are selling at a much higher price. Why Aberdeen City Council is getting only 55 per unit?
I mean, the 55,000 is in the adopted guidance. That's all we can ask for. We can't ask for anything we want. It's been adopted by the council as supplementary guidance as part of the local development plan. So that is that would have went through research and it's been looked at. That's what the policy is. So how that was arrived at would have been looked at. So unfortunately, can't ask for more than that.
Okay, thanks. So maximum we can ask only 55,000, even cost more to build. Okay, the second one is you mentioned in your report due to the expected high maintenance cost. What is this high maintenance cost? Because as it was in the press that these flats are for rent. Yeah,
so that was in relation as to whether an RSL would take the building on. So here the maintenance of the building would be with the developer. So when they then start renting it out, because it is not a standard building design or type, typically the maintenance costs are going to be higher than if you just have a rectangular block of flats that you would normally get. So that would deter an RSL from actually wanting to take a block on to occupy with affordable housing. So that's what that was in relation to.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, is that all your questions, Councillor Malik? Yeah, thank you. I've got Councillor Gregg. Thank you, Councillor Gregg.
Thank you. I have two questions. The first one is on condition number 2, which is the requirement for a management plan with SEPA and Scottish Water. I believe the quarry belongs to a private owner, so would that factor not necessarily be included within that condition? And therefore, if it were, how realistic is that condition to enforce if, for example, you had a party who was unwilling to engage?
Yeah, so our understanding is that you're right enough that there's a third party that owns the quarry. There is an agreement between the applicant for this application and the quarry owner that discharge of water is permitted into the quarry. So the applicant does have that right, but you're right in saying that the third party would need to be involved in this management plan, and that would be the expectation. If they were unwilling to take part in that, then that could pose a problem for the applicant, and they might not be able to comply with the condition if the authorities like SEPA, ourselves and Scottish Water aren't satisfied that the management plan is doing what it needs to. So it could be a potential problem. You're right, yes.
Okay, but that condition 2 is perfectly valid. It doesn't need to incorporate the third party.
It doesn't need to. No, the expectation would be that to comply with it, the applicant would need to speak to the third party. And the way it's worded, it's a Grampian style condition whereby if they can't comply with it, then, as it says at the beginning, no development shall take place. So that needs to be dealt with prior to any work starting on the site.
Okay, thank you for that. And the second question is on traffic and parking policy. There would be 254 parking spaces provided, of which 20 would be allocated to the Class 3 restaurant, which suggests 234 parking spaces for residents. I'm just looking, given that the usual ratio for providing a parking space is 1.5 per household, I'm looking for some explanation, some reasoning as to why 234 spaces, which is quite significantly below the requirement, why that's being justified. Thank you.
Vote colleagues could maybe comment on that.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, thanks, Michael. Mr. Kelly.
Yeah. What it is that we're accepting that the site is very accessible in terms of public transport. It's walkable within the community, and also the fact that rented that not necessarily everyone will have vehicles. There's also car clubs being provided within the site, and even as part of the previous application in 2018, we were accepting on space per unit, and then upgrades if are required, any upgrades on bus stops and the links on Queen's Road, and the car club contributions are both 2 new cars and spaces, which would also serve the site.
Councillor Gregg.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you.
Okay, that were your questions. Councillor Copeland.
Thank you, Convener. I've got a couple of questions on this. These units, correct me if I'm wrong, they're precast concrete, transported in and assembled on site. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was our understanding, is it would be modular elements of the building which would be used to construct it. Yes.
I wonder, because I don't see a traffic plan for the build phase about how quarries, because I mean, we're speaking about hill and roofs like Anderson Drive for access. But obviously these are going to have to be big Arctic quarries to transport the modules in. So I was wondering if there's a traffic plan for access and restricted hours or anything there.
I mean, typically we don't ask for that. I mean, we could do here. I mean, it is a fairly unique site. Like you say, there could be issues with traffic. So I think we do have a condition for a management plan. I'll just find it. Yeah, I mean, there's a condition 15, it's a construction environmental management plan, so that would normally deal with that kind of issue. And we could amend that to specifically mention that as a topic they need to address.
Thank you. The second one is, it is concrete. There's no facings or anything going on to it. It's just the bare concrete. Is that right?
I mean, there's a condition to get specific details of the external finishing materials, but at the moment they're described as sorry, just try to get to the right bit in the report. Yeah, so I mean, the applicant is described as masonry-based off-white textured material. So yeah, it would be a textured material. They wouldn't have anything stuck on it as such. And then at the ground floor, there is granite for the around the bistro and the public walkways, etc.
Yes, thanks for that. I mean, we all know how granite weathers, and we know how concrete weathers quite badly. That's why I was wondering if there's any sort of special coatings or coverings that are there to protect it, because I'm thinking long term, 10, 20 years, it could get real messy.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be certainly something we'd look at with the applicant in terms of complying with condition 15 in terms of the external finishing materials, and we'd be looking for something that does weather suitably and it's going to last the time.
Yeah, I've got one last one if I can, Convener. It's about,
yes,
it's about the runoff water into Roofs Quarry. Now, is there any water coming out of Roofs Quarry at the moment? Does it go into the Roofs Burn or anything like that, or does it just basically sit there and gradually fill up over the years?
I mean, what the drainage assessment has advised is that the water drains naturally through fissures in the rock. It does rise over time, and then that's when the management, the council's been involved in along with the applicant, comes in, and there is provision for pumping to take place when that's required. But I believe that takes place over quite a long period. It's not like it needs done every few months or anything.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, I still got hands up, but I assume those people with their hands up have actually asked their questions because we have spoken. But is there anybody who's got their hands still showing us up, still wanting wanting to ask further questions. So I've still got Councillor Copeland, Cormie, Councillor Stewart, your hand's still up. You got a further question? Councillor Stewart.
Hello, convener. I'm still thinking. Have I got a minute still to? Or,
yes, because I do have some questions. Councillor
okay.
Cormie, can I ask? Are you looking to ask another question because you still got your hand up, or have you just not taken it down? That's fine, thank you. Could I just ask a few questions, Mr. Easton? We've made reference a few times to the application which is currently approved and could still be put in place. Now, looking at the sort of the different heights, obviously there's a tower which goes up 29.4 meters, but subsequently reading the report, I would just suggesting I think the majority of the building is actually 17.70. Is that correct?
Thank you, convener. Yes, that's correct. So the hopefully can you see that on the screen
yes,
at the moment? Yeah. So yeah, the tower element is obviously a lot taller than the other elements, and the main part of the building it's 17.7 meters in height. So so yes, that's obviously smaller than the current proposal in terms of its general height.
Okay, and just again for clarity for myself, the tower, which we're looking at obviously the drawing here, but which end is the tower of that building going to be? Which
the tower end is, I don't know if you can see my mouse moving.
Yeah. So
it's there at the west end of the building. So the shorter end leads around towards Royfold House.
Right. A couple of other questions. We saw some interesting viewpoints with the sort of photomontage type. Now on Rubislaw and Rubislaw Park Road and Queen's Road, where you can see the building. That's it, yeah. But what we're suggesting will screen it substantially would be the trees. In terms of those trees, because I know that we certainly discussed where trees have been considered as screening, which are not on the site. Are those trees part of any TPO or conservation area?
Yeah, those trees are part of the TPO that wraps around the majority of the site, apart from the application site itself. So they do have a degree of protection, but yeah, obviously trees can go over.
No, I mean, it's just that I'm conscious a lot of the pictures that we saw had a lot of buildings which are less likely to disappear, but trees just with age, never mind anything else, can sometimes be lost. So it's just to get that clear understanding. The other one was also the site from, and I'm not quite sure where it is, from Queen's Avenue. Queen's
that
one? Queen's, yeah, that one. How close is that? Yeah, how close are how close is the development to those flats? Because obviously it's, there's not the same screening there.
Just measure it.
I'm just not familiar with Queen's Avenue, that's all.
So it sits right on the south edge of the quarry, and the distance across the quarry is generally between 130 up to about 150 meters away.
Okay, so it's the other side of the quarry. I was just wondering if it had been immediately adjacent.
So yeah, behind those garages there, that would be the drop down to the surface water of the quarry, and then obviously you've got the building on the other side.
Okay, Councillor Stewart, have you, well, I'll ask one other question. In terms of, there's been a number of questions around the affordable housing contributions. Now, I understand that the part of the problem was we felt that an RSL wouldn't be interested in taking on the building, and I think if we heard from Councillor Copeland, sometimes maybe cement seems to be a more costly way of requiring maintenance. So I'm assuming that if members wanted to request that the contribution be in the form of flats there, as opposed to a financial contribution, could we just get a bit of advice around that?
Yeah, I mean, certainly members could request that. I guess we could do that through the legal agreement. However, that might make the development not viable, so there is that risk that it doesn't happen because that makes it unviable. But yeah, I mean, our advice is that the contributions was suitable thing here, and that would be based on discussions with housing as to what ourselves would look for, and through experience of previous applications as well.
Okay, so that's actually two different points there. It's, obviously we don't think maybe an RSL would be interested in it because of the cost to them. However, you're suggesting as well that if we were to go ahead and accept just the financial contribution as opposed to affordable housing, it would make the scheme more viable as opposed to unviable if we were to have the housing on site.
Well, all I'm trying to say is that if we have a condition that says they need to provide some of it on site, then if that's not workable, then they won't be able to implement their consent. That's maybe a better way of.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Councillor Stewart, have you got a question?
Thank you, convener. Yeah, it was just about the bistro and the public promenade. Obviously, when it said it's going to be a residence gym and it would just be for obviously residents, but I do wonder how a bistro and a public promenade would actually operate within the confines of a completely residential area. I sometimes in complexes you see that the facilities there are just for those that live there, but obviously the bistro and the public promenade would be for the public, and how would that actually pan out in reality?
Yeah,
is that just supposition, really? Sorry if I'm putting you on the spot, Mr. Easton, but it's just something that's going through my mind.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the only public areas are the bistro and the walkway, the open space areas. The gym is for residents only. So I mean, the bistro it's not a residential use, but I mean, we've got various uses such as cafes and that throughout residential areas. So we're comfortable enough that in terms of amenity, there's not going to be any conflict. There's the parking there is 20 spaces provided, so that's more than would be required by the guidance for a food and drink use of that size. So in terms of parking, we're happy enough. So I mean, we think it would fit there quite comfortably. I mean, our expectation is that there wouldn't be bus loads of people coming to visit. It's more somewhere for people around about to have a walk, that kind of thing. So we're quite happy that it would sit comfortably.
Okay, thanks very much, convener. That's fine.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor Stewart.
I'm not sure if I take my hand down. That's the only thing.
That's okay. Well, I know that you've asked your question.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Can I just check? Has anybody else got any more questions? No? Okay. Officer's recommendation is approve conditionally with full consent until the legal agreement is secured to deliver the developer's obligations towards affordable housing, secondary education, core paths, open space, and healthcare. Can I ask, is anybody otherwise?
I'd like to move refusal.
Okay. And Councillor Cooke? Councillor Cooke?
Yeah, thanks, convener. I'd also like to second Councillor Gregg for refusal.
Okay. Would you like to outline, Councillor Gregg, what your refusal?
Yes, I think in the usual way, I'll outline the grounds of refusal, and then will I go into get advice from officers? Is that right?
Yeah, if you could give us the outline of your business, and then we can go into private with legal officers, and then you can give a bit more detail when you come back, so that members can decide whether they want. And Councillor Cooke, I'd suggest you go with Councillor Gregg into chat.
Thank you for that. Under policy H1 on residential areas, I think that this is an example of overdevelopment, and I think that it reduces the environmental value of the site unduly. there will be quite significant dominating visual impact of varying degrees, minor to major. There will be overlooking to the north to office buildings and to the south and the west to residential properties. I think the silhouette, the massing and the form of the silhouette is unacceptable. The green space network policy, it is a designated open space, and the report admits that that it's undesirable to lose that open green space. Policy D1 on quality of design, I think it's an unsuitable and an incongruous building in terms of its design. Then the policy on traffic and parking, it's significantly below the parking requirements, and I think it's unrealistic to expect a reliance on public transport and walkability. Also, I have some concerns about the education provision. That there will be some impact on the academy, which I think is a bit of a worry. And there's also the City and Shire Strategic Development Plan, which we give weight to that, and that does favour sustainable development. And I'm not convinced that this is sustainable development because of the scale, the massing, and so forth.
Okay. Can I then, I will pause the meeting, and if Mr. Lewis, if you could arrange with legal to meet with Councillor Gregg and Councillor Cook, and we'll come back if I suggest that maybe 10 minutes give you enough.
Yes. Is there somebody moving the recommendations?
Well, I think we'll wait and hear what you've got to say, Councillor Gregg.
Okay. Cool. Okay.
So, Councillor Gregg.
Can I just ask? Do we hang up now?
So Robert Templeton is the legal officer today. So he will call Councillor Gregg and Councillor Cook into another call. So you just accept that, speak to Robert and come up with your reasons, and then you hang up from that call, and then it should give you the option to resume back into PDMC.
Right.
Okay.
So Robert, are you ready to go?
Fingers crossed.
Okay.
Yes, sorry, just doing that right now. So
Okay.
hopefully you should receive invites soon, Councillor Gregg and Councillor Cook.
And the rest of us will just go on mute and wait for you to come back.
And I'll just read out this section for the recording.
Thank you.
So please note that Councillor Gregg has moved an amendment, and in order to review appropriate wording with officers for his amendment, the meeting will be adjourned for a short period. Please note that the recording will continue. Therefore, this is a reminder to all participants to please switch off your microphones and camera during this time. So if we
Thank
can
you
all
very
please
much.
mute and put our cameras on. Thank you.
So if we plan to come back in 10 minutes, folks, and if they're not back, we'll just wait. Thank you. Hi, folks. I think we're going to need another 5 minutes, so hopefully she'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Hello.
Are we all back? Okay. Councillor Gregg, obviously, do you want to just go over your amendment or refusal, so that the members can hear it?
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'd like to set the context with Scottish planning policy, and the Aberdeen City and Shire Strategic Development Plan calls for sustainability principles to be applied wherever possible in compliance with planning policy. So that's the overall context, and I don't think that this proposal fulfills that requirement. Then there's the series of policies which I don't think are being met. So each one on amenity. It's a largely residential area, particularly down to the south and to the west, and this would be a case of overdevelopment with considerable, albeit varying, visual impact on various streets in the vicinity, and indeed farther afield. It's quite a prominent landmark and not a welcome one. There would also be, as is mentioned in the report, overshadowing. There would be impact to the north on the office buildings. It is a unique site. It's mainly residential. There is a group of office buildings there, but I don't think that the nature of that site justifies applying the policy D3 on big buildings. Big buildings are appropriate to the city centre and to its periphery, and this is not a site where the big buildings policy would apply. It's a unique site because of that. So that's D3. Then yes, the volume of the building has been slightly reduced, but there's still very considerable and unsuitable influence on the area. Then D1 is on quality of design. The checkerboard effect, I mean, on its own, it's an interesting, innovative design, but it's not compatible with this location, and I just don't think that the quality of design, the architectural character, relates well to this site. So that's D1. I think it just conflicts. Then T1 is on parking. Parking in particular, it's accepted that there is below the parking requirement provision. According to my calculations, it's 0.92 parking per household, which is quite significantly less than the 1.5 parking spaces per household that you would normally expect. And as I mentioned, I think the reliance on public transport on buses on Queen's Road is unrealistic. That's a very unrealistic aspiration. And it is a walkable area, but I'm not convinced that that's a convincing factor. Then policy NE1 on the green space network is something of considerable value in our local plan, and the report does acknowledge that there would be loss of green space, which would be undesirable. And then policy I1 is on education. There would be additional pressure on the academy. Three overcapacity spaces would be provided, so that's a big worry. That's it.
Okay. Okay, Councillor. First of all, before I hear from anybody else, does anybody want to move the officer's recommendation of approval subject to conditions? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. I assume, Councillor Stewart, your hand's up from questions last time. Can I just double check?
Sorry, it is Have I got my hand down now? Is that
perfect?
Yeah. Okay,
Thank you.
sorry. Thank you.
No, that's okay. It's just for the recording. Okay, can I just ask Ms. McBain if, given that Councillor Gregg is now basically the motion, given that nobody's moving it, I don't believe that require any further seconding or debate. Can you confirm, Councillor? Sorry, Mrs. McBain.
Yeah, if all members are in agreement for refusal, we can do a roll call. If anybody doesn't want to move approval, it'll just be agree to refuse based on the reasons for Councillor Gregg given.
Okay, thank you. Right, so I say I'm not seeing any indications, so I would just suggest we go to the roll call. Ms. McBain.
Okay, I've just scribbled down the reasons, but I can just read them out roughly.
Thank you.
So Councillor Gregg is moving refusal on the application as it does not comply with policy H1, D3, D1, T1, NE1 and I1. So if members please.
No, just to intervene there, Lindsay, it wouldn't be T1, it would be T2.
T2, sorry, T2.
Sorry, T2. Okay, if we can get the reasons typed up after. So if members can just indicate if they want to move refusal on the application. So convener.
Refuse.
Councillor Jennifer Stewart.
Refuse.
Councillor Allen.
Refuse.
Councillor Cook.
Refuse.
Councillor Copeland.
Refuse.
Councillor Cormie.
Refuse.
Councillor Gregg.
Refuse.
Councillor Mackenzie.
Refuse.
Councillor Malik.
Refuse.
Okay, so the application is unanimously refused, 9 votes to 0. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. McBain. The date of the next meeting is on Thursday, the 2nd of July at 10 AM. And that concludes the business for today's planning committee, and the recording will now cease. Thank you all very much for your assistance today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Stop the recording.